We are live, finally. How about you, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of the Auburn Live call-in show. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3. And I'm joined, as I always am, by the three people. Oh, Cole's off tonight. He is skiing on the artificial snow in Mentone. Hey, Brooks, will you turn that dryer off, please? Mr. Jhead, Mr. Keith Niebuhr, fellas, how about you?
How about you, brother?
Man,
so from Disney World to Mentone, Cole's just all over the place right now, isn't he?
He is.
Do you need a passport to go to either one of those places?
Mentone, yes, totally different. Mentone is something else. Hey, fellas, what about this week, man? Brooks, will you kill that dryer? How about this week? Hey, am I getting feedback, or are y'all hearing echoes?
No, you're good.
I'm hearing everything you're saying.
Keith, let's start off with you. You've been all over this, man. We saw Wednesday was a big day for Auburn. Friday was a big day for Auburn. Talk us through this week, man. Since the last time we had this call-in show, Auburn's picked up 3 commitments in football, 2 more in basketball. I'll get to the basketball, but the 3
you do the basketball,
the 3 football commitments, Keith. Talk to us.
That's right. Well, Wednesday, you and I and Jhead, everybody's expecting a slow day because Auburn didn't sign any new 2023s. They did pick up walk-on punter kicker Dave Russo from Auburn High School and Under Armour All-American. We're going to write about him this week. Great kid. But other than that, there wasn't much action left there. So Auburn, picked up a couple private commitments the previous weekend at Junior Day. And those guys went public on Wednesday. Jaden Lewis, right? Am I getting the names right here? I'm always Jaden Lewis, the 4-star defensive back, cornerback, 6 foot 175 from Anniston, Alabama. He committed huge pickup because Zach Etheridge has been hot and heavy. Yeah, all over that's the wrong term, but been all over this guy's recruitment for a long time. This is a guy that he targeted more than a year ago and really wanted. And so closing the deal on that was significant. And, that was commitment number 2 for Auburn, him joining 4-star nickel safety Amon Lane. But earlier in the day, Auburn picked up Malik
Autry,
Malik Autry. I'm drawing all these blanks. Malik Autry, 2025 defensive tackle. I know Jhead loves this guy, 6'5", 6'6", 280. But, a guy that had committable offers, we think, from some pretty big programs, Georgia, LSU, programs like that. So, again, Jeffrey and I are always talking about this, and Jhead, too. I don't mean to leave you out. Who are you beating to land, guys? So these are big pickups. Jaden Lewis was a guy, FSU, Tennessee, schools like that. Malik Autry, LSU, Georgia. So that was Wednesday. And then Friday, guys, we did a show Thursday, and the chatter then was so pro-Clemson with quarterback Walker White that I think all of us were like, well, if they don't get this guy, we were trying to soften the blow. Hey, keep an eye on Jake Merlinger from Savannah, the other 4-star quarterback that they've offered. Keep an eye on him because, and we're trying to say it's not the end of the world. And that night, we all got tipped off, I think the 3 of us, that guys, keep it quiet, but don't put any predictions in, anything like that. But, Auburn might pull this thing out. And then the next morning, it became clear that Auburn, really had a good shot. And sure enough, that afternoon, Auburn got a commitment from Walker White, the talented 4-star quarterback from Little Rock. I keep wanting to say Little Rock Central, but that's the famous school there, Little Rock Christian Academy. And they beat out Clemson. And, again, who are they beating out? Clemson for a quarterback. Well, they've had Deshaun Watson. They've had Trevor Lawrence, guys that went, number 1 in the draft. Right now, they've got a kid, Cade Klubnik out of Austin, Texas, that's doing some good things, and they think the future's bright. And last year, they beat Auburn for Chris Bazine out of Birmingham. So that's a lot. I took a lot of time there, Jeffrey, but Walker White's huge. I talked to his dad last night. We can get into that later, but, they never told Auburn, according to them. They told the other schools that weren't getting him about 15 minutes before the announcement that they weren't going to that school. And they wanted it to be a surprise, but just an enormous pickup. And his dad played golf at Arkansas. He's got 2 brothers that played sports at Arkansas. So to pull him out of Little Rock was significant. Look, he was their number 1 quarterback target without question. We've been saying that for weeks. So just a huge, huge week for Auburn.
Hey, if you're listening, man, we want to get a question in tonight, give us a call, 701-779-9585. Before we get started, our favorite realtor. Big
yes.
About you to Miss Jessica Andrews with eXp Realty. If you're looking for a home in or around Auburn, Opelika, Lee County, Alabama, give Jessica Andrews a realty. Give Jessica Andrus with eXp Realty a call, 334-704-4442. Residential properties, investment properties, buy, sell. She can do it all, folks. As Jhead said, she's a 5-star realtor.
Yes, sir.
Jessica Andrus with eXp Realty, 334-704-4442. Tell her we sent you. Jhead, you and
Yes,
I can
sir.
go back and forth here. Auburn, Hugh Freeze had 3 guys. Bruce Pearl said, hang on, big dog. Let me get in this game, too. Wednesday, Jhead Pettiford, the number 4 point guard in the 2024 class, committed to Auburn over UConn, Kansas, Kentucky, you name it. 2 days later, 48 hours later, LeBaron Philon committed to Auburn over, who's the number 6 point guard in the 2024 class, committed to Auburn over Alabama, Kansas, Tennessee, you name it. He had his pick, trust me. Both of those guys, top 40 recruits. Huge. And to go along with the top 60, the number 6 center, I believe, Peyton Marshall from Atlanta.
Yes.
So you got 3 guys in the top 60, 2 guards now in the top 40. Pretty big day, pretty big week.
I think that would be the understatement of the year. So let's start with basketball and what that means for us. Going back 2 months ago, both you and I were of the same opinion that the 2024 class had the potential to be massive for Auburn. That 2023, from a high school standpoint, was probably going to be relatively slim, 1 to 2 guys. And then they were going to fix most of their needs in the transfer portal, contingent on who left the team after this year. But that with everybody that was moving on, 2024, with the guys they were in on, had a chance to be a huge year. You are a full year out from next year's early signing day, and you've got 3 massive pieces, the least of which is the number 6 center in the country. Think about that. The number 6 center in the country is the worst commitment you have right now in basketball. But you pick up 2 guys that are top 30 prospects in the country. Both of them are great complements to each other. One is a point guard that has the ability to shoot it with range. Great kid, great ball handle out of New Jersey, sees the floor extremely well. And he's going to play fantastically with a young man from Mobile and LeBaron Philon, who can play off ball. He can play on the ball. The way I would categorize him for people that don't know his game, an extremely more athletic Samir Dowdy. He has the ability to do it all. Someone that can shoot, someone that can handle. You can put him in ball screen action. You can play him off the ball. You can put him in pick and roll situations. There's not anything that he can't do. Realistically, he has the potential to be a Ja Morant type. I don't want to throw that label on him just yet because that is huge, huge, heavy praise, but he's got that kind of skill set, guys. So both of these pickups, massive in basketball. And then football, you pick up a 4-star safety prospect over Tennessee. We talk about it all the time. Who do you have to beat? Tennessee's one of those teams you have to beat. Jaden Lewis. Yeah, Jaden Lewis reminds me of Stephen Roberts. And if he can play up to Stephen Roberts' capability, we got ourselves a really good one. You get a 4-star young defensive tackle, has all the potential in the world. We'll see what he's going to be more this year when he kind of moves inside. He played a little bit on the outside last year. Let's see what he looks like on the interior. And then Walker White, Jeffrey. I mean, full stop, what his commitment means to me, everything's on the table, right?
Yeah.
If you can go and pluck a quarterback that was number 1 on Clemson's board, and this wasn't an in-state kid. It's not like you had a leg up. This was a kid that was out of state. It was an equal recruitment, and Hugh Freeze won the battle. That means everything is on the table. If you think you're going to be able to flip an Alabama commit, well, you got to be able to beat Clemson first, and you did that. And it sells hope to a fan base that badly needed it. Think about recruiting the last 2 years. When we were matched up against Georgia or Alabama, hell, even me and you would talk about it in private, like, yeah, we really don't have much of a shot. You don't feel that way anymore. Some of that hope that makes college football the great game that it is when you're watching a program on the rise, that's what you're seeing right now in Auburn, and it's fantastic to be a part of it. And I'm going to use my patented line, watching Hugh Freeze stuff Dabo in a locker on a Friday made my weekend. So, Zach, you got some callers for us?
We got one. 5960. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
What's going on, fella?
What's up, baby?
What's going on, fella?
How about you?
How about you, baby?
What's going on, Edward?
From? That's what I thought.
Man, it's freezing on the plane, baby.
Oh, it is freezing on the plains, Edward. It is.
It's freezing, baby. I need an extra coat on, man. It's cold out here tonight. Hey, it feels good to finally have a coach that has a plan. I don't have to listen to the coach speak. I heard the future is bright from Gus for 8 years. The future is bright. That's all I got out of him. The future is bright. I didn't get much out of Harsin. But what I like about Freeze, I trust everything, every hire he had made. I trust who he had brought in, every recruit that he bringing in. The man knows what he's doing, man. The man knows what he's doing. I apologize for having doubts about him at first, but we got the man that we needed. We got the man that we needed. Auburn football is in good hands, man.
He's only been here for 2 months, big dog. And everybody has already seen that this was the right guy. That's how big of an impact Hugh Freeze has made in the 60 days that he's been here. End of November, right?
Yes, November 26th. Mm-hmm.
End of November, so the end of December, the end of January. He's been here for 2 months. He's meticulously put together a staff that people had doubts about.
Recruiting circles. He's running a big something like Madhouse in Montgomery. He runs similar thing up in Birmingham way. He worked with all the top athletes. Matter of fact,
Coach L.
He worked with Jay Lewis, Requise Elberry. He was with him too. McKispert, all them guys were with him.
You talking about Coach L?
Told me, he said, man, Auburn had a hard time getting a lot of his guys. All of them pretty much went to Bama. And he said,
if I'm not mistaken, Edward,
y'all got somebody that know how to get them now.
So he's telling you that?
Huh?
He's telling you that. Is it Coach L?
Yeah. No, he's a trainer. He's a trainer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I met him as Coach L. I think he does Jeremiah Beeman, a lot of those guys too, or at least the guy I'm thinking of does.
Coach L, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, dude.
Yeah, I know Coach L. That's him. Good dude.
I had to think about what you were saying. Yeah, that's him. Coach L. Coach L, that's my life. That's my lifelong friend. We've been friends forever.
All right, man.
Edward, you just became my new favorite source, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, I told you I'm connected. I'm not just a local joker, man. I got connections in this thing too.
I like it, Edward. I like it.
The railroad. I ain't on the train tonight. I'm off today. I'm a railroader, man. I ain't on the train, so I get to listen to my guy. But one more thing before I get off.
All right.
I told y'all that Mike Montgomery looking for a point guard. Now he said the words out of his mouth. I need a point guard. People better watch out for holding ground in his quarterback competition, man. Much as I like Robbie Ashford, they need somebody going to get the ball to who the ball need to get to. We can't have this inaccuracy. No, not talking about him, but Holden could have been our quarterback last year. And I got this from inside sources at Auburn University, people on the team. The only reason Holden didn't play last year, that offensive line was so bad, they didn't want to kill him.
Yeah.
Holden Grinder was the best quarterback on the roster last year. If Brian Harsin didn't tell you, he told you one thing that was absolutely true. He told you that Holden Grinder is one of the best throwers of the football he ever seen. And the world about to see that too.
All right.
I like it, Edward. I'm looking forward to spring practice.
Yeah, man. Y'all guys, man. Y'all keep doing what you're doing, man. Like I said, just glad to be off where I can listen to y'all tonight.
Good deal, Edward. Rolling, man. And enjoy your night off, big dog. Glad you called. Fantastic call. I don't think anybody here would argue that Holden Gurner's a fantastic quarterback. And I think you looking back to last year, I don't think anybody wanted to throw this true freshman in at the time. And when they did, he did get – I mean, immediately it was like, get that dude out. He doesn't deserve that. Not that Robbie did either.
No.
But Robbie at least had the ability to buy himself a couple of seconds more. Not that he could do anything with it. At that time, his accuracy was not up to snuff.
Right.
Good stuff, Edward. Always appreciate you, big dog. We appreciate your call. Enjoy your night off, man. Zach, you
yeah, two more.
All right. Keep them rolling.
1370. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Hey, gentlemen, this is Lord George.
LG.
Georgie.
Man, I wasn't fired up, but dang, that last caller got me.
Everett will do that. Everett will do that to you, LG.
I guess my question is kind of open ended. Like, where do we go from here, or with the football recruiting? Kind of like what's up next? I mean, we got obviously that. I'm going to say his name wrong now too. Walker White.
Yes, Walker White. You got it.
Landing that big fish, and then that whale, I guess, and then hopefully some other dominoes start to fall because of that commitment. But anyway, just open-ended, just kind of seeing where 2024 kind of you guys seeing what happens next, breakdown.
I like it, LG. I appreciate your call, man. Keith, what do you see on the horizon, the immediate future?
Yeah, immediate future. I mean, we know, and I know Lord George knows this, but February is a dead period, and so Auburn will not be, and nobody will be hosting recruit through the month of February. So I think things are going to, at least on the surface, slow down a little bit. Now, behind the scenes, new offers are going to go out. They're going to be working kids really hard. But now the goal, the first big junior day was really kind of laying the foundation for future visits. So practice, I believe, starts February 27th. The coaching staff in the month of February is starting install. They're putting everything together now to get ready for practice, offense, defense, everything. So that's kind of going to be where a lot of their focus is. Again, still recruiting, still calling kids, still FaceTiming them, still DMing them, all that stuff. But I could be wrong. There's always a chance that they've laid the groundwork with somebody so well. I know Cole and Jeffrey think they got a shot with Joseph Phillips, the linebacker, Tuskegee, right down the road. But by and large, I think the key now is to get kids back. And from what we heard at Junior Day, there's a lot of excitement about getting back. Smaller crowds, more FaceTime with the coaches, being able to go out on the practice field and in the huddle in many occasions, many times, many instances, to see how these guys coach, right? To get a true feel for the guy that could be coaching me. So again, February 27th, and then I think the spring game is April 8th, if my memory is correct. So during that window, now February 27th is still dead, but that second practice, we're going to start seeing recruits show up every day, especially on weekends. But in terms of individuals, I think Phillips is one of the guys to really watch, obviously. Other than that, I think the action's really going to get going in March. Now, again, there could be some things happening in February, but I really think March. I think you guys probably agree. March, and then the spring game. My guess is by the spring game, we could be looking at 7, 8 total commitments or more. You know what I mean? If it's on that right path, then that's where they should be at. I think that's where they're at. In terms of who can protect Phillips, but other than that, it's hard to really project.
I thought he had a good story with D'Angelo Barber, the linebacker from Clay Chalkville.
Yes.
D'Angelo Barber really likes Auburn. Joseph Phillips does too. But both of those guys were like, I'm going to wait until later in the summer or before after my senior season begins. But you know how this stuff goes, man.
Well,
they come back, have a good visit.
That's right.
And I think Keith kind of nailed it. During the month of February, while the coaching staff is obviously going to be working on other things besides recruiting, where everything up to this point has really been recruiting. Now you're talking about install with scheme, building things out, building culture, doing things like that behind the scenes. And the recruiting staff is probably doing the continuous of reorganizing the board. Okay, we had this guy in for junior day. We got his measurements. Do we like him better now than we had somebody else before? So there's a reevaluation process, and that leads you into March. Like Keith said, you get more kids on campus. Hopefully you start to see commitments come, and it's going to crescendo. We'll see when coaches get back on the road who they go visit. That's going to be also a big tell as well. Where do those evals go out to? Because they're going to get back on the road in April, and then they're going to come off the road again in May. You'll have your big portal window. That'll obviously be a focus for the attrition that you have to account for. And then maybe or maybe not, we have a reemergence of Big Cat Weekend on that Memorial Day weekend in May. Maybe they don't bump it all the way back to September. But there's a lot that's going to happen between now and then that we'll be able to talk about. But right now, I think it's just coaches getting with this team, being able to put in what they want to put in for spring, and then also the recruiting staff doing a reevaluation of everybody they just saw for junior day and making a determination of who they want to go all in on and who they want to get on campus for March.
I do think that commitment of Walker White more than Lewis is kind of going to be an eye-opener to a lot of the recruits. He's a big-name guy. He's not in the top 50 or anything like that, but he's in the top 175, but a big-name guy. And that got Auburn a lot of good pub the other day. So I think a lot of the kids that already visited, that's going to kind of be a more reaffirming thing. Hey, this is a program. And, Walker White told me this a week before he committed. And I said, "Why, if you picked Auburn, why Auburn?" He said, "Well, one of the things was I like the staff they built to coach quarterbacks, 4 guys, Hugh Freeze, Ken Austin, Philip Montgomery, and Jesse Stone." Then he said the second thing, they got a lot of momentum right now. That was before they landed him. Okay, so now they have real quantifiable momentum, we think, and that eye-opening thing, I think, is going to resonate with a lot of the kids that just visited. And then, you guys notice once they start picking up a few pieces here or there, you pick up one running back, well, then all of a sudden you only have one more spot at running back available, and who wants that spot? And so a lot of kids have and you guys, Jeffrey, especially you, I've been following Jeff since before I got to Auburn. There's this whole deal where a lot of kids want to ride it out and then start filling up, and then all of a sudden a lot of the hate barn by August.
Let me get in real quick.
Yeah.
That keep us going, big dog. Hey, good stuff, LG. Good discussion question there, man.
Jump back in. All right. 7254. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Yes, this is Clayton from Carrollton, Georgia.
Clayton, right?
Yes, sir. I got 3 questions for y'all. I got 2 for Jake Lee and Jhead, and then 1 for Keith. I'll just ask all 3 of them and then hang up and listen. My 2 for Jake Lee and Jhead are we still gonna pursue Ace Bailey, the kid out of McEachern, or is his recruitment basically over with and done? Is he basically just headed to Rutgers? And then my other question about basketball is what's your feeling about Dylan Harper? I saw he released a top 5 and had Auburn in it. I was just wondering how y'all feel about Dylan Harper. And then my one question for Keith was, have you ever seen the head coach come in and do what Hugh Freeze has been able to do for his school in the matter of 2 months? I mean, with what he's done, had everybody buying to what he's doing and everything. But besides that, where are you going? Y'all have a good night.
Appreciate you, Clay. Good stuff, man. On the topic of Ace Bailey, Ace Bailey's a 5-star kid from McEachern, which was right up Auburn's alley. Auburn signed so many guys, Isaac Okoro from there, and he committed to Rutgers, surprisingly. A lot of buzz around Auburn at the time. He committed to Rutgers. And I will say this, Clayton, I checked on this. I checked on this 3 or 4 days ago, and what was relayed to me was basketball is a different animal than football. People don't commit, and there's an unsung, an unwritten rule almost amongst college basketball coaches that once a kid commits, he's off the table unless he's the one who initiates communication.
Yes.
Again. So if he's still interested in Auburn, Auburn's certainly going to answer the phone. They're going to text him back. But as far as Auburn is concerned, he's committed, and it's that unwritten rule that, hey, man, you don't see kids flipping basketball much. So unless Ace Bailey changes his mind, that I see him sticking with Rutgers. And I know that's hard to believe because most of the guys, especially Auburn fans, they're so used to following football recruiting. And, in football recruiting, when a kid commits, it basically means, besides quarterbacks, basically it means they're my leader right now. We've seen it from Alabama commitments visiting Auburn the past 2 weeks. I'm committed, but I'm still looking at other schools. Well, what the hell does that mean? We understand it. It's football recruiting. That's just how it goes these days. Football recruiting, a commitment other than quarterbacks, and sometimes not even quarterbacks, means that Alabama's my leader. Auburn's my leader right now. But in basketball, man, once a kid commits, schools lay off, and unless that kid initiates communication. So unless Ace Bailey changes his mind, I do not expect him to do anything other than sign with Rutgers. Dylan Harper, Jhead, are you particularly versed with the 2024 5-star number 4 overall player in the country, Dylan Harper?
I've been tracking that recruitment for a while now. I would say Duke's going to be extremely hard to beat here. I feel like he's got a really good relationship with the coaching staff there, and John Shire, who just took over as the head coach, I think last year, replacing Coach K. Um, Duke has recruited New Jersey extremely well for like the last 20 years. They have deep roots to that area. I also think having LeBaron Fallon, it has hurt us some in this recruitment because the need is not as great for that combo spot. You already have one. Now, look, in my opinion, you're going to take as many good players as you can get, and Dylan Harper is a fantastic combo guard. He can do pretty much everything that you need. But having that need already filled, my guess is we're going to be looking elsewhere, probably for a stretch four is more likely where we're going to be putting our attention. I know Jay Lee has mentioned a handful of guys, a center and another stretch four. I just don't see it breaking our way this time for him. I think he's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, and I would love to have him, but I just think he's probably trending towards Duke as of now.
Clayton, I will say this. I don't know if you saw my hoop scoops last week, but unless Auburn, I think at the guard position is done for now, unless they can not unless they can get, but their main focus right now is Flory Badunga, Baduga.
Yes.
Baduga,
that's how you say it. But don't trust me, man.
Yeah, 5-star big dog, almost a stretch four. Really hasn't specified what position, but he could play that 4 or the 5. Hell, he's very athletic. He is the top dog left on the board for Auburn. Asa Newell is another guy, 5-star guy from down. I think he's at IMG. He's another guy Auburn's going to be tracking. But unless a kid is truly elite, Auburn is going to be very, very, very selective in adding any more in this 2024 class. They're going to hit that portal hard. And, of course, listen, there's still a lot of time here for this 2024 class. So I know Boateng is another guy that they're keeping an eye on. But Dylan Harper, unless he called coaches and said, I'm committing, I don't see that happening. I feel like Flory Badunga, and it's the number one guy, maybe Asa Newell if you wanted to, but that's a stretch right there. Auburn will be hitting that transfer portal hard. Keith, his final question was, Hugh Freeze, have you seen a head coach come in and just knock down the freaking door?
Man, I am the worst at comparisons.
I hear you.
Middle of the night, remember. Let's do a couple things. One, we haven't seen this in the last 10 years at Auburn. Now, Gus, don't forget, Gus came in guns a-blazing now, okay?
He did.
Montravius Adams, I believe, was in the first class. Carl Lawson had committed earlier, but then they held off. Carl visited other schools, so they had to hold off some people for him, and getting Nick Marshall. And I think there was a real flurry there. The difference is now you've got the transfer portal too, and also, even though Auburn had just fired Gene Chizik, there was still significant buzz about Auburn. They had just won a national title 3 years earlier. Cam Newton his career was just on an unbelievable arc in the NFL.
NFL MVP.
Auburn, there was still Auburn buzz. Now, no, not 2 months ago, nothing. And so the hole was much deeper. You wouldn't think so. Auburn did win, 5 games this past year, and Chizik's last year they won 3, I think. But the hole seems so much deeper now with the roster attrition and bad recruiting, mediocre recruiting class after mediocre recruiting class. So at Auburn, we haven't seen anything like this. Other schools, it's tough to say. Brian Kelly, I think, really had a good every situation is different. But Brian Kelly, Billy Napier, and Mario Cristobal all did big things, I want to say, last winter, quite frankly. To this level, given all the variables, I don't know. I mean, they might have landed bigger name guys and 5-stars, and Auburn hasn't done that yet. But again, where were the holes with these programs? I mean, Miami hadn't been good, but there was so much juice because Cristobal had been there before, and it's from Miami, and Florida had hired away Corey Raymond from LSU. So there was more buzz about those programs going in. But 2 months afterwards, I'm not sure that they had more buzz than Hugh's got right now with Auburn, quite frankly. I think they might have landed bigger name guys. It was a different animal even a year ago. Not everybody quite understood or knew how to really utilize it. Now in year 2, we're seeing everybody.
Or even gauge it.
It's hard to really compare, but, it's a unique situation. And I think the best way of saying is, Auburn people, I love them to death, but they always want to compare Auburn to everybody else.
Yeah.
Just gotta, hey, forget about everybody else for a second. 2 months ago, where were they? And now where are they? and they were here below the screen, and now they're above the screen in 2 months. Okay, I think that's the best way of looking at it.
And if you want an Auburn comparison for somebody who's been following Jeffrey Lee for the better part of his career, the transition from Tuberville to that first Chiswick staff, when they came in, do you remember the buzz and the excitement with Tiger Prowl and Big Cat Weekend and Trooper and Looper? This is what this reminds me of right now. The buzz that Hugh Freeze has created reminds me of that first year under Chiswick, and the recruiting buzz that he generated getting that top 5 class and landing 5-star after 5-star. I mean, you had Sean Coleman in that class. You had Michael Dyer in that class, multiple other big-time wide receivers. It's star-studded defense. I mean, Corey Lemonier was in that class, or I can't remember how you say Corey's last name. Excuse my language, but
that's right, Lemonier. Or is it
Lemonier?
Yeah.
Or was it Lemonier? I can't remember. Anyway, Lemonier, maybe. Ladarius Owens, multiple other guys that were big-time prospects at the time that you picked up in that class. And that parlayed itself into the following year when we won the national championship. So that first year of Chiswick coming off of Tuberville, who was not a star chaser. He got stars, but he was an eval guy. He was a camp, right? Built stars, was a camp guy. Chiswick came in and completely retooled that.
To land a quarterback, you were hired November 28th, and on February 3rd, you just beat out Clemson to land a quarterback. Not in the 2025 class, in the current class now.
Yeah.
The current class. So you were way behind. Okay, you were way behind. Now Gus got Nick Marshall pretty early, but who did they beat out? Didn't they beat out Kansas State? They didn't really beat out a lot of people. Nobody knew.
I believe it was.
Nobody.
It was Kansas State, yeah.
Because he was
exactly.
in Kansas.
Everybody knows who this guy. A lot of schools offered him, and there was a considerable amount of buzz with Walker White. So to do what they've done in this short period of time, win the transfer portal. They won far more than they lost in the transfer portal. They finished with a bang on signing day, flipping guys in the last week from Ohio State, Tennessee, FSU, LSU. Okay. And now to start 2024 off with this kind of buzz and this kind of success coming off of a huge junior day. I think we all thought he would do well, but I don't think we could have predicted this.
No. I agree.
And to your point on the transfer portal, we lost one player that went to a P5 program. One.
In terms of
that's what I'm saying. And everybody else that transferred from Auburn went to lower tier programs, FCS, low G5. You know what I mean? You didn't lose anybody that truly hurt you, and you picked up a ton. You're right, Keith. I'm saying that we netted far more.
You beat to land the guys in the portal that Auburn went after. They didn't lose many of those battles. You know what I mean?
They did, and they beat out P5 schools for every one of those players. It wasn't like you were battling the little sisters at the port.
They lost Dylan Johnson, but then picked up Brian Battie like a few days later.
Yeah.
Lost Rah to Georgia, Devin Leary to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I will say this, Clayton. Hey, listen, Jhead, as much as Hugh's done in the first 2 months, I don't think nationally, perception-wise, publicly, that Chiswick, Looper, Trooper, Tiger Prowl, the birth of Big Cat, those first 6 months of Chiswick, I don't know will ever be matched because, first of all, it was illegal. But I mean, just nationally, those cats busted down the freaking door like the Kool-Aid man. So I don't know about results and stuff, but listen, Hugh Freeze, what he's done in 2 months is we talked about last week. He's done all this, but he still hasn't gotten that quarterback. He's still missing that quarterback, right? Well, here we are 6 days later, and he has Kool-Aid his ass through that door and said, I'll take him. I'll take one of that guy right there. And he got it.
That's a hell of a point. And I don't know about you guys. I'm convinced now more than ever that they're going to get a good quarterback in the next
every year.
The spring portal. That's right. Because it just too much sense. It just unless Holden Gurner or Robbie Ashford just completely dominates this spring, it becomes hard to get somebody.
Well, you know what? We were like quarterback recruiting is not going to be a problem for Hugh Freeze. I mean, we're seeing this back in December and January, and then we're like, man, maybe it's going to be a little bit longer, and then boom, and I mean, I think they felt better than we did about Walker White, but I think in the end they were like, really? Okay.
Yeah. Hey.
I felt good until about last Tuesday, and then there was so much written about this Clemson trip that I almost, through some psychosis, you start convincing yourself that your own intel is wrong. You know what I mean? But we talked to him, and I kept telling you guys, ultimately we were right, but there were a couple of days there where we would have been wrong. But the intel suggested that these guys, he and particularly Hugh Freeze, were clicking on another level, okay, beyond football. And then come to find out when we talked to his father, he says, and by the way, he was Philip Montgomery at Tulsa was his very first.
Mm-hmm.
That
was good stuff.
They go back 2 years, and the dad said, "Look, keep in touch with all these guys that have offered you. You never know where they're going to end up." Hugh Freeze hires Philip Montgomery after the Tulsa deal doesn't work out. And his dad screenshots it to him and says, "Here's what I was
told
talking."
You so.
And and Auburn immediately jumped into it. We didn't even know that. If we would have known that too, as opposed to just his relationship with Freeze. And then you throw in, he was talking to Jesse Stone, the offensive analyst at the quarterback position. I think that's his title. Every day. And then you have Kent Austin as a special assistant to the head coach, who is Malik Willis's QB coach and OC at Liberty. Guys, this is a college program. This isn't an NFL program. To have 4 guys working basically on the quarterback is the kind of thing that's going to direct quarterbacks to your program. It just is.
Can we also agree, to compare, especially like you said with with Chiswick coming in, the success plays a large part in how we look back on it.
Sure.
If they had all that hype and they go 4-8, I don't think we look, because Miami had a lot of hype last year with Cristobal coming in, didn't win a thing. Napier, the only people who really had hype and really won something was USC, because they had to tie in with Caleb Williams, but
Sure.
TCU made zero hype.
And A&M had a bunch of hype too, remember?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they would all trade seasons with TCU right now.
$40 million class.
Absolutely, they would.
Yeah.
A&M had the $40 million class.
According to sliced bread.
Well,
Zach,
you're right. Ultimately, how you act, and I ran into Hugh at Waffle House. Man, he's an awesome guy. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. But a nice guy still needs to win. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's what they're going to judge you on. Okay. I've seen, how many times have all of us seen guys replace guys that weren't that popular, and they're out in the public and they're shaking hands and kissing babies, and everybody's, I love this guy. And 3 years later, the guy's on the unemployment line. It's an oriented business, period, end of story.
That's right.
But you win by out recruiting people.
Absolutely, man.
Okay. So
chicken and the egg, big dog.
You have a reason to believe, to be optimistic. It's okay, Auburn fans. I know they hate being optimistic, okay? But it's okay. When you recruit, they're recruiting, and they got a long way to go, but if you stay on that path, good things will always happen. They just do.
Some big off-season wins, man. That's what Auburn fans need.
Yeah.
That's what they're getting right now.
Good point, Zach.
Yeah, so we got 5 callers.
All right, let's hit it. Let's hit them.
One each.
Everybody.
Question
5677. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from? Oh, he hung up right when I got him on here.
Call back, bro. Call back.
7350. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
What's up, guys? This is Justin out of Lafayette.
What's up, Justin?
What's up, Justin?
I was through your town this evening.
Yeah, a little bitty. You blink, you're gone.
Yeah, those 2 little red lights will screw me up, man. Every time. Both of those little red lights get me.
Yeah, I got you. So I got 2 questions for you guys. One, there was an Ole Miss linebacker that hopped in the portal right after Austin Keys committed.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody I follow on Twitter, it's like an Auburn Barstool or whatever, they said, "Oh, we know where he's going." I was wondering if there's any news about him or anything. I can't remember his name. But the second question would be, I've seen a lot of people think that Grayson McCall's still going to be at Auburn by this fall. I don't know if y'all heard anything about that, but I would love to get y'all's opinion. But thanks, guys. I'm going to hang up. That way I can listen.
Appreciate you, Justin. Y'all heard how he pronounced Lafayette.
Lafayette. Yes, sir.
Brandon Matt. I don't know who he is. I don't know about this Ole Miss linebacker. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, there's Ashanti Seastrong. Do you know, Keith?
I don't recall this one. But it would be a few months before anything could happen anyway.
Well, no, he could commit because he got into the portal on before the deadline,
Okay.
but he can enroll in Auburn
Actually, yeah.
if that's his intention. Now, he could potentially enroll someplace where they're on a quarter system. I don't even know who's on quarters anymore, but if there's a quarter situation, maybe. But at Auburn, he'd have to wait at minimum until May to enroll if that were to be his plan.
What was the deadline? The January 19th, wasn't it, or January 18th?
January 18th, I believe, for Ole Miss specifically because they fall in the same criteria as Auburn. They weren't in the national
Linebacker Ashanti
championship.
Seastrunk.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, Jeff. I haven't heard anything there. Maybe that's under consideration, but I got a feeling they want to go through spring right now to see what their needs are at linebacker before we start talking too heavily about anybody else being in the fold, especially with the two you just added.
Well, also, there could be some really, quite frankly, better players enter the portal after spring.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, Justin. I haven't heard that. I'm not saying that anybody's wrong. I'm just saying I haven't heard that.
Right. And then on the Grayson McCall thing, yeah, I've heard the rumor, but not from anybody that I would trust to truly know at this point. And let's just see if he re-enters the portal, guys. I'm not trying to downplay anything and say that that's not going to happen. I just don't know it. He's not in the portal right now, and I can't really speak to anybody who's not currently in the portal and what their academic track is going to be.
So, yeah, I just know it. Back in December, it was long shot for this kid to be able to transfer. Does that mean he can't transfer at the end of May or whenever? I don't know. I haven't seen his transcripts, man, but I know that somebody who has said that it would take a lot of work for him to do it. We've all heard the rumors, man. I'm not going to say anything's final. He's definitely not going to transfer to Auburn. I don't know.
Sure.
But that's I haven't heard the Ole Miss guy. And Grayson McCall to me is wait and see. I mean, nobody really knows right now. Nobody, if they say they know, then they're just guessing. All right, Zach, keep us going, B-Dog. Good stuff, Justin.
5677. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
This is Kerry. I'm calling from Lebanon, Tennessee.
Oh, man. Kerry Evans guy who hung up on us. Let's hang up on him.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just kidding with you. All right, Kerry, what's up, big dog?
Well, just a couple of things. These are exciting times being Auburn Tigers, especially with, of course, what BP's been doing the past few years, and Hugh Freeze, and even the baseball team. I heard the team maybe better in the past two World Series teams from that. So, I mean, you just run the gamut. But a couple of comments on basketball, football hang up. Basketball yesterday, I assume I watched the game, and I don't, like to blame officials, refs, but that was horrible. Tennessee was fouling the crap out of Auburn, and 90% of the time wasn't being called. And, so I think we got something for them come March the 4th when they come to the Juggle. So,
Gary,
it will be sweet.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, man. Neither one of those two teams deserve to win. Oh, listen, I don't watch a lot of college basketball, but I watched that game yesterday, and I realized why I don't watch a lot of college basketball. That was frustrating to watch, dude. Listen, I don't watch basketball for defense. It was 19 points at halftime, 23 for the other team. If anybody's complaining about a ref non-call losing that game, neither team deserved to win. It was awful.
No, there's no question that you're right.
It was like going back in time before the shot clock.
Yeah.
And, it was just crazy. I like of course we got Bama coming in next week, but I like our chances in the rematch against Tennessee in March.
I do too. Pearl's phenomenal in second games, especially when he's got a previous scout. So, and my guess is Stephen Pearl will be scouting this game for us, and they're going to take it personal. So I do like the second matchup against Tennessee.
Absolutely, yeah. Just one thing about football hang up. I love the fact that Freeze is building the offense and defensive lines up. I mean, you go back, the 80s, the 70s, Pat Dye teams, he always had top-notch NFL offensive defensive linemen, and today in 2023, even with the fast-paced offense and stuff, that's still where the game's won. And I love the fact that Freeze is along the skill people, but he's building up this offensive defensive line. And I think that's where it all starts, and that's just exciting to see. And
it is.
You guys, I'll hang up listening after this. You guys, Brendan Frazier, big tight end. I know he's had some injury issues, but do you see him maybe making a move, maybe getting on the field more this season? And I'll hang up listening. Thanks.
Hey, appreciate you, Kerry. Good stuff, man. Frazier was more of a Harsin kind of a pro. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jhead. Are we looking at more? Are we looking more towards the future in this offense of being a Landon King, a Rivaldo Fairweather type tight end, a Samuel Sinker who can do a little bit of both, even play the H-back if that was even part of the offense? Whereas Brandon, is he more your prototypical I formation tight end?
So more of your inline tight end. He's kind of grown into that. When he was brought in by Chad Morris, if you watched what he did in high school,
and there was a lot of buzz. They loved this kid.
Loved him, and he was a guy that could play in the slot as a detached wide, somebody that could create mismatches. But he's added so much weight, and I felt like he played a little bit heavy last year. I think it really depends on how his body is when he comes into this spring and what they're really asking him to do. Hugh does use differing bodies in the tight end room, and he'll use them as H-backs. He'll use them in line, not as much, but he has done that. But your playmakers, like you're right, they're the Landon Kings, the Rivaldo Fairweathers, guys that have the ability to stretch the field, get down the seam, and be mismatch nightmares there in the slot. That's what tradition. That's the Evan Ingrams, the other guys that he's had in the past that he's really kind of had success with. But Brandon was a guy in high school who was very athletic. I think he was also a basketball player, and Keith would know this better than I would. He covered that recruitment.
He was.
Where he was a really athletic kid. It's just his body, he's gotten so big that he's lost some of that athleticism that he possessed early on. So let's see, under a different strength and conditioning program, what he becomes, how he develops in the spring, and can he kind of make that jump? Because we know Luke Deal is an inline tight end. There's no question. He's not a guy that's going to play in the slot at all. I feel the same about the Fromm kid. I don't know that he has the capability to play out in the slot. He's done it some, but he's just not the athlete that Rivaldo Fairweather is. And I think he may be the best of the bunch. And I think that's something that Ben Agamai actually said he thinks might be true when the coaches were meeting with our reporters last Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But I have some hope for the kid, but it depends on how his body is moving into the spring.
Could you see him with like a small weight loss being more of like a Dawson Knox? Because he's not – Dawson Knox is pretty athletic, but, I mean, he's not on Evan Ingram's level or anything like that. How much weight do you think he might need to lose to more fit how they use like a Dawson Knox in that offense?
I think he'd need to get down to 250, 245. I think he was playing upwards of 270 this past year. I mean, he looked like a tree running around out there on the field at some point. So if he's going to be effective, and specifically in this scheme, I think he needs to be playing a lot closer to 250.
You got any more for us, Zach?
Yeah, the last three callers will be 0506, 8466, and 7503. 0506, you're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from? Oh, and they hang up. 8466, you're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Eric. I'm from Sheffield, Alabama.
What's up, Eric?
What's going on, man? How about you?
How about you, big dog?
I wanted to touch on the Hugh Freeze recruiting first, and then I wanted to talk about Hugh Freeze, the CEO.
Okay,
on the recruiting, Keith said look back a couple of months ago and where we came a few minutes ago when y'all was talking. Well, I read an article a couple of weeks ago saying that we had 5 All-Americans in that high school All-American game.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And that was the most that we had. Before that, I think 4 was the most we had.
Well, I looked at the 5, and Tyler Scott, I think he announced that night during the game. Then we had Lee, he was a flip from Ohio State. We had Paul, which was a flip from Florida State. We had Lou, the flip from Miami. And then we had Reed. Well, I think without Hugh Freeze, there's a possibility Reed's the only player we have in that game. So in that short amount of time, we had 5, which is the most we ever had, which I thought was highly impressive.
No doubt, man. You know what? I sometimes forget about Lou.
Yeah.
He's really good from what I hear.
Oh, and going back 2 months ago, I thought Joyner had a good chance of being a starter on this year's team at guard or possibly center, but now we're in a situation where we might could redshirt him and not throw him to the fire line, depending on how things look.
And then you got Avery Jones from the transfer portal, so maybe neither one of the two guys have to be thrown into the fire. Reese Dismukes or Ryan Pugh, going back to true freshman centers that's played at Auburn.
Reese Dismukes when I see Lou. That's exactly who I think. That's what I'm hoping for, anyways.
You and me both, brother.
The CEO, that's the term I'd like to hear thrown around for Hugh Freeze. I think this is just a perfect marriage at the perfect time. The Auburn fan base has been torn apart since the end of the Malzahn era. You had the crew that hated Bo Nix, the ones that loved him. They hated Malzahn. Some people loved Malzahn so much they never gave Harsin a chance. Some hated Malzahn so much they was ready to paint the field blue when we hired Harsin. And I kind of seen all of that go out the window when Cadillac took over as the interim, and he kind of just pulled that fan base together.
He really
and
did.
What I'm seeing with Freeze is he's keeping that same energy, and he's just driving it forward. Even your few naysayers that you have when he got the job, now he's kind of winning those over. Everything you see about Auburn is just positive right now, and I think Auburn just being humbled and people thought we was going to fire Malzahn and hire Belichick. I mean, we had some crazies out there. So, and Hugh's been humbled, and I think he looked at Malzahn, and if I can say Malzahn had one mistake, I'd say it's not turning over that offense a little bit. And I think that's why Hugh's addressing that offense already. Like, hey, I'm giving my play calling duties up. I think he's really CEO in this and looking at the bigger picture. And just every swing he takes is a home run. He hasn't had a strike yet. I mean, he's had a couple of check swings, but he's just killing it everywhere. And it's like he's sit back and planned on this for so long. And I truly believe he has. I think he's where he wants to be at. And I think he's got the perfect game plan. And I'm pumped. I'm pumped.
Good for you, Eric. Hey, good call, big dog. Really good call. I think.
My bad. You can call back in. Didn't mean to cut you off. I thought. Go ahead, Jay Lee.
I thought he made a lot of really good points, and I don't think we should ever forget the job Cadillac did. I mean, you talk about a quick Band-Aid on this fan base, and just cooled it over and I don't even know if appeased or placated or what for this fan base, but it was like a breath of fresh air for this fan base, whether right or wrong. Almost like set Hugh Freeze up and said, like, all right, man, I've got them ready for you. I buttered them up. And nothing about it was not genuine. Everything Cadillac Williams does is genuine. He's as good as they come. I'm telling you, he loves Auburn.
But
we all saw it.
Jeff,
but he was like, here you go, man. I got them ready for you. And Hugh Freeze said, appreciate you, big dog.
Jeff, during the coaching search, you and me were on the same page. And the two guys we liked were Freeze and Lane Kiffin, right? The whole way through. And what do those two guys have in common? We knew, and Jay had too, and Zach as well, we knew that those guys could forget about everything else. Just look at one position. We knew those guys could fix things at the quarterback position. So the guy they got, Hugh Freeze, is on the way to doing that. The guy they didn't get just did it at Ole Miss.
Yeah, he did.
What do they politics, they always say it's the economy, stupid. Forget about what everything else is going on. At the end of the day, when people go into that voting booth, it's a lot about what the economy is, right? Well, in football, it's the quarterback, stupid. Don't ever forget that. I've made that mistake many times before. Well, they lost a Heisman Trophy winner, but you know what? They got so many other good players back. They'll be fine. Doesn't work that way.
Nope.
Not basketball, and so I think that this is what Hugh Freeze more than anything. That's why I think this is so significant, what just happened last Friday. Keldrick Falk, huge, completely huge. To me, Walker White is here and everything else is down here. And that's not diminishing those other things. And we don't even know if Walker White he may never play down at all. We don't know. But that is the direction that's the kind of thing that needed to happen. It's been a while.
Been a long while. Hey, does that get us to 7503?
7503. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
How about you, fellas? This is Papa Willie calling you from just outside Auburn, Maine.
How about you, Willie?
Hey, I wanted to ask about at the press conference for Heismanberg the other day.
Yeah.
Did he listed off a bunch of guys he said he was going after?
He sure did.
What do you know about those guys and how good are they?
Well, they're all really. I looked them up, man. I think Cole actually had a story there, Papa. If I can find it, I'll pull it up. But I will say this, man. Some of the names, I was a little surprised.
Very.
I really was. Some of those guys, I was like, oh, I would have thought this guy would have been on the tip of his tongue, or this guy who just visited twice, and he's an in-state kid. But is anybody else pulling this up?
Yeah, I got it right.
Okay.
Jamison Riggs is a big offensive.
Do you think it's from the coaches fed him?
Do I think the coaches fed this list to him? I don't think he came up with it on his own.
100% not.
But yeah, Keith, give us some names there. I think Daniel Hill was one.
Yeah, the offensive lineman, Jamison Riggs is a big kid from Georgia that had recently picked up an offer and visited. That went well. Daniel Calhoun is a big offensive lineman.
Daniel Calhoun, that's
out of Roswell, Georgia. I think he just put out a top 10 and Auburn wasn't in it. But when a kid's only putting out his top 10, you're probably in okay shape. You have time, okay? They're putting out their top 4 or 5, you might have a little problem. Jaquan McCroy, the in-state offensive tackle, is absolutely blown up. He just visited Auburn for Junior Day, so that's a big one. Perry Thompson, the Alabama receiver commit from Foley, Alabama. Cameron Coleman, we've written about him many, many times. Receiver from Central High School in Phoenix City. TJ Moore down in my area, Tampa Catholic. Big-time receivers. Only played football 1 year. He's got a 42-inch vertical leap, and he's 6'3", Jhead. 42-inch vertical leap.
Insane.
Jarvis McIntyre, former Auburn player. Look for him to visit this spring. Nye Carr, I'm not going to name everybody, but Nye Carr in Moultrie, Georgia, is a Georgia receiver commit. And that's interesting. He just visited for Junior Day. Landon Thomas, a tight end, also from Moultrie, Georgia, Colquitt County. Another Georgia commit. Okay, so there were some interesting.
Was there a running back?
Yeah,
2.
Yeah, who were the running backs, Keith?
Kevin Riley from Tuscaloosa, and then the kid from Mississippi who's an athlete. Some people see him as a linebacker. We see him as a running back. I think he's 6'1", 220. I'm trying to think of the kid's name.
Hill from Meridian, 6'2", 220. No, and Jhead Meridian, I mean, obviously it's close to Tuscaloosa, but it ain't that far from Auburn either. So
no, it's not.
A good school to go get players that always have a lot of talent at that high school. Kevin Riley from Northport is the other from Northport, Alabama, was the other running back. That was interesting. Those are 2 guys that we haven't been talking about.
No, I had to go look up those 2 guys.
Yeah.
Who was the kid from Meridian?
Daniel Hill.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Both of them really good players. And look, as soon as I saw that list, I was texting, I was hitting the group chat like, guys, did you see this? And I'm over here breaking down film already. And what I thought was interesting is 2 very different running styles, but guys that can be effective. And I think probably the thing that caught me off guard more than anything is these were guys that were here for Junior Day, right? Fat Burnett was there. You had the kid from Eagles Landing Christian, the Hood kid was there.
Yeah, there was another kid from Mississippi there.
Yeah, and another kid, young man from Mississippi. I'll think of his name.
Caden Daniels, I think.
Yes, Caden Daniels. Realistically, what this did was kind of fill the gaps for some of us as what maybe the recruiting board looks like. That gives you 5 names. That's probably about what you're carrying if you're a coaching staff on your recruiting board.
5 takes of 2.
Exactly.
2 of 5.
Right. So it definitely caught, I think it caught me off guard, but in a good way, because every one of these kids, when you go back and you look at their film, and obviously it's highlights, so I'm looking at different things than what the typical person's looking at. But what these kids showed me is they're all blue chip caliber players. Every one of these guys, either they're a 4-star now or they will be, I promise you, by the time we get to the end of the rankings. These are all guys that carry multiple Power 5 offers, and a lot of them from the blue bloods. Your Georgias, Alabamas, Clemsons, LSUs, Floridas. These are offer heavy kids that are on our shopping list. So it's not like you're going to be battling Cal for somebody on this list. You're battling the guys in your regional footprint.
There's one thing we don't know about Hugh Freeze yet. I'm just going to go on a weird arc, but we don't know. Is he playing advanced chess?
Yes.
Is he a guy that throws? Is he going to be a guy that throws out a few red herrings to get the competition off some other guys? We don't know. We'll find in about 3 years. Ask us, right? But this was an interesting list. And now I guess the question would be, where do they stand with a lot of these guys? Well, some of them were so new to us, we don't know, and they haven't visited yet. But I'd say Cameron Coleman, the receiver out of Central Phoenix City, we think that they're going to be very much in the picture with him. Jamison Riggs, I think, is an offensive lineman out of Georgia that we mentioned. We think they're going to be in it very much with him. We'll see. We'll know more when it's so hard to say this. People, it feels like you're passing the buck, but the March visits are so important.
Yes.
Maybe the most important of the year, because you're coming in the morning, you're going in the meetings with the team in the position group, which they haven't done. They didn't do a junior day. Then you're going to watch practice. Then you're meeting with the head coach, and you're spending the whole day there, basically. These are, I think, the most important visits, like I said, in a cycle. And so we're going to learn a lot more about these 14 guys in March, who shows up, who doesn't show up, April, excuse me.
Especially with the way the recruiting calendar is right now. Until they fix things, we're on an expedited timetable where you're looking at filling, at least 15 to 20 guys in your class by the time you get to September 1 every year now?
Yeah. Well, and we don't know. These boards are going to shift. They'll go through spring practice, and Cadillac may meet with Freeze and Montgomery and Ken Austin and say, we're not as high on this guy as we were 2 months ago, or we're higher on this guy than we were 2 months ago. And this guy does this, so we no longer need another running back in this class that does the exact same thing. So things can dramatically shift throughout, quite frankly. So just be prepared for kind of the typical roller coaster ride of a recruiting season.
Last call here.
Okay. There you go.
0506 call back in.
Okay.
0506. You're live. Who we talking to? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is old Hog Bone.
Hey.
Yeah, I had a little technical difficulty over here with this oh man, hey, listen, Hugh Freeze grew up on a dairy farm. He's a hard worker, let me tell you about it. And you can tell it. He's about worn out right now. So we need to really hope he gets a little rest if he can in February. But what I was calling in about the basketball only facility. What's the deal with that? Where are we? I heard that Bruce had wanted to hold off on it because of NIL. But boy, some of these boys sure could have used that extra time to practice on some shooting, in a facility like that. But I just wondered, Jhead, you know anything about it? What's going on with it?
So it's still under consideration. My understanding is, the latest of my understanding is you're right, that Bruce Pearl wanted to get the NIL situation in a much healthier place. Look, you can talk about facilities all you want, but it's relationships and NIL dollars that are driving recruitments right now, and how you can be developed. And yes, facilities play a role in development, but Auburn's got a decent facility. The biggest issue with it right now is that it's being split amongst 3 different teams in volleyball, women's basketball, and men's basketball. They're going to build Bruce's Taj Mahal, and I do think that it's going to come around probably 2025-ish. I think it's probably what you're looking at for an adequate timeline. But right now, it's making sure that our NIL is in a position, specifically in basketball, where there's fewer players and it's higher dollars, is in a spot where you can be competitive with anybody in the country. And these guys see that there's an investment, if there's a return on investment for them, that they're going to be able to market it and brand themselves at Auburn and not only set themselves up with NIL, but with NBA dollars. And I think Bruce is showing them that as well. So that was kind of the focus. Yet Bruce is going to get his palace. It's in his contract. I promise you it's coming. But probably you're looking 2024, 2025-ish before that actually gets started or they start construction.
Hey,
I see. I was a little concerned if we needed to look at getting more national dollars in. I know they want to do that over at OTB, but I think it's just things only going to get bigger and bigger and more money. So I think it's going to be imperative for us to kind of get into some bigger endorsements to keep up with this thing. What do you think about that? I'll let y'all go.
Thanks, Hog.
appreciate you, Hog.
Can I go first?
Yeah, go, Keith.
I see how this is sustainable. I'll just be honest with you.
Man.
I don't even know if we're talking about it in 5-10 years.
5
We'll
years.
see. I want the athletes to do well. Financially, why shouldn't they? That's how I always thought about it. But I just don't know. It's just kind of the Wild West right now. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if
I think we'll look back and go, man, remember when it was just freaking chaos and everybody, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're in right now. We're in a period of time that in 10 years we're going to go, remember that? Man, that was crazy. Can you believe we were doing that and talking about that and covering that? Like, how in the world are we doing that? I really feel like that's what we're going to be doing in 10 years.
I agree. And look, there's only one way to me to kind of reverse course here and make this normal. And it's not take away NIL. I think kids should get paid. I think they should get everything that's coming to them. But it's the one-time transfer rule, which is really what is hurting this, because you can't predict what's going to be on your roster from year to year. Allow kids to transfer anywhere they want, but bring back the penalty to transfer where you sit 1 year. That will eliminate the tampering portal. It will keep you from having to burn through NIL just to retain kids, not to acquire new ones, but just to retain guys you're having to burn through your NIL dollars. So if that reverses course, and I don't know that it ever will, because look, nobody wants to be the person to come out and say, hey, let's restrict player movement, right? But if college football is going to be successful moving forward, in my opinion, that is going to have to go backwards. The transfer portal
That would change a lot.
Exactly. You can go wherever you want when you transfer. There's no restrictions on who you transfer to, but you got to sit out. And anybody that wants to compare this to the NBA or the NFL, look, those guys are locked in contracts too. When their head coach gets fired at the Denver Broncos, guess what? Guys don't just get to pick up and leave and go to another team. They're under contract, right?
That's right.
So why should a college kid be told, hey, there's no penalty. You can do whatever you want. You can go wherever you want. No, it's make a good decision on the front end. If you don't like it, pay the penalty to get out and go to another team where it's really going to work out for you, not just where the NIL dollars better.
I agree. Hey, great calls tonight. Zach, you got something for us?
Yeah, the chat's been going crazy. So just quick thoughts on Alabama announcing the hire of Kevin Steele as the defensive coordinator tonight.
Good for Kevin. That's my take on it. Good for Kevin. I hope he does well, except for when he plays Auburn. Period.
We love Kevin Steele, Keith.
We do. He's a guy that was always sorry, I'm getting tweets here. A guy that was always cool with us. A guy that Jeffrey and I had a unique perspective. We would see him after games when they bring the coaches down through the crowd and all that and go into the recruiting area. We would always see him, and I don't know if I've ever seen a guy look more exhausted after a game. I mean, like this slugging. He puts everything into that game, man. He puts everything into. He's a good guy. He loves Auburn. I'm sure that he would have loved to ride it out and finish it at Auburn. Believe me, but this is a good opportunity for him. Him and Nick, and he always told us, Jeffrey. He says he likes Nick. Nick's a personable guy. He says we would like Nick, and he said I don't let anything he does bother me because I just give it right back to him.
Yeah.
And that's Kevin. He does his own thing. Good guy.
Good for Kevin. Good for Alabama. He's a fantastic defensive coordinator, as far as I know. He explained to me his recruiting philosophy one time, and hell, we were just sitting down there. I mean, you talk about a guy who comes out of his office, walks down just to sit down and shoot the shit with us.
After he made fun of us for a few minutes, then he'd get in.
He got his jabs in, but we give him a couple of jabs himself. But I loved how he would explain to me how he's going about this defensive class and why he's going to replace this guy. And this is what he's going to do. He's moving. It was phenomenally, and it was interesting. I love Kevin Steele. I think he's fantastic. I think he's a fantastic person, fantastic defensive coordinator, and good for him, man. Good for him.
You can pull for individuals.
Yes. And I will say this, though. It is interesting, though, that they've got now, I think, on that defensive side of the ball, 4 guys with experience in the front 7 and only 1 guy with experience in the back end. Ooh. So my guess is that the coaching staff movement has probably not ended on that side of the ball for Alabama. I just don't see how you can't have another secondary coach or somebody that's got some experience back there. So that's kind of a take coming out of this, other than to say, good for Kevin Steele for getting back into the SEC and the state of Alabama to enhance his retirement pay whenever he does decide to hang it up.
Let me say one more thing. I'm done. That's not mine. We know
Brooks, but
Texas. We know Alabama's going to be Alabama. We know Alabama's going to be formidable. My question is, and I know Auburn is thinking about this, but I live down in Florida. Ooh, where's Miami headed? Getting a lot of players, but
listen, we saw this with Harsin last year. Lose both your coordinators.
Have 2 new coordinators. It's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Yes, it is, Keith. Yes, it is. Anything else, Zach?
That's it. That was the main thing, man. They've been asking since we started, so I had to make sure I question in.
Hey, well, man, that was fantastic. That's a good way to end it, man. Good for Kevin Steele. Appreciate everybody calling in tonight, man. Edward got us started. LG was coming in. Clayton from Carrollton. Justin, Kerry, Hogbone. Eric, and then Papa Willie got us finished off there, man. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good questions. A lot of good comments. Fix my hair. But hey, we'll be back, man. Keith and I will get it kicked back up in the morning with Inside the 20, and we'll have 4 or 5 shows throughout the week, man. We'll be all over. Hey, I will say this programming note: I will not be here next week. Jessica's turning 25.
Yes. So
I'm going to take her down to the tropical island or whatever the hell it is. I don't know what it is. Mexico.
Oh, are you going to see? Maybe you'll see Harsin down in Cancun.
There you go. Oh shit, is that where he was? Then that might be where we're going. So maybe we'll have to miss out on that, but we will tune it out this week and get it going, man. We'll be back in the morning with Inside the 20. Hey, appreciate everybody. Thanks for calling. Thanks for listening. For Jhead, for Zach in the back, for Keith, I'm Jeffrey Lee, man. Y'all stay out that left lane. See you.